friends. I'm Karen, and this is the Family Food for Moms podcast. We're talking about inspiration for family cooking and dining. Today we're going to talk about what we can learn about food and dining from England. Not so much Scotland or Wales, they're also part of the UK, but I'm going to chat about those at a different time. So England is quite fascinating. I always think of the famous 5 books by Enid Blyton and picture the children riding on their bicycles through the fields, having a picnic in the sunshine, enjoying the outdoors. And then their picnic would have been packed by their cook at home and have things like meat pie, fruitcake, ginger pop. Or they would eat at an old farmhouse where they were staying, and the kitchen table would be piled with goodness from the farm, raw milk from the cows, clotted cream, a ham, again meat pie made by the farmer's wife, and many more wonderful fruit tarts and things that they so enjoyed. So something that England is famous for is the English pub. This pub is not just a place for drinking alcohol like it is in other countries. It's a place for food. Children go there too. It's a place for hearty food and close community. And one of the most popular dishes is fish and chips. There's also steak and ale pie and something called ploughman's lunch. In the steak and ale pie, beef is cooked in beef stock with ale, which is a kind of beer, added to that, and then gravy. It's a classic British dish and a popular pub food. The ploughman's lunch is a cold meal with bread, cheese, and pickles, and sometimes a little bit of salad or fruit with it, and then some crusty bread or baguette to bring it all together. So in England, there's some fancy names for meals. They certainly don't have all of these in the day, and they don't always use these names anymore, but these are the correct names. Breakfast, if it's in the middle of the morning, it's brunch. Luncheon, then afternoon tea, and sometimes high tea, which is later than afternoon tea. Then dinner or supper, which can be quite late in the evening if there was a tea or a high tea. So often in a day, they would have either breakfast and lunch or brunch. Then they would have an afternoon tea or a high tea, and then a lighter dinner or supper as a meal. So a typical English breakfast consists of eggs, bacon, often sausage, some fried bread, mushrooms, and then baked beans in tomato sauce, and then often some orange juice. So it's a really big, nourishing meal. And I think this is a good thing to learn from the British. Instead of starting our day with a little pastry like the French, it's good to fuel your body, nourish your body, get in all the good stuff, and then be ready to do whatever you need to do that morning and not get hungry again until lunchtime. Obviously, you don't want to overdo the amount of food you eat at breakfast, so perhaps use some of the above. Like I like to do a scramble with some mushrooms or a zucchini with it. But instead of having the bacon, you could do sausage. Instead of having all the different things together with the bread, you could just have the vegetables and the bacon. So there's lots of options, but it's great to see the full English breakfast is always a great hit at hotels. You can get it for room service, and it's something that a lot of people around the world enjoy from the British. Then in winter, often people will eat porridge, which is like oatmeal, cooked oats, or cooked wheat called tasty wheat. There are a number of options which are classified as porridge. The British have a real art when it comes to afternoon tea, high tea, and a lot of hotels actually have taken this on. They are good at serving a high tea with the most elegant small cakes and sandwiches that you can find. And I think an afternoon tea or a high tea is such a fun way for families to have some time together, maybe on the weekend, or for visitors to come to have a birthday tea is always such fun. So at tea time, obviously there will be tea, all the different kinds. drawn for just the right amount of time. Green tea, you draw for 60 seconds. Herbal tea for longer. They have it down to a fine art. And then they balance the small sandwiches like a smoked salmon sandwich, a cucumber sandwich, and then British scones or scones, which are the round ones. Little tiny cakes with icing or frosting, a bit like the French petit four. And it's often served in a beautiful environment with an elegant place setting and is a good time to relax and enjoy some time together. Another thing they like to serve is the Victoria sponge cake, which is a sponge with no icing or frosting. And it's maybe sprinkled with a little bit of icing, sugar, a very delicate sponge cake. So it's a time to relax and enjoy delicacies. Then the British brunch is also fascinating. It's kind of a combination of breakfast and lunch. So there may be some cooked elements to the breakfast, and then there would be granola or muesli. There would be yogurts, different kinds of fruit yogurt, fruit platters, perhaps some cold meats, kind of like a hotel breakfast as well. The hotels have taken that on. And it would be done at about 11 a.m., so no breakfast and then not really a lunch either, but a lovely big brunch. And this is also often a social occasion, a party, a tea with guests that you enjoy together. Fancy table settings, often eaten outdoors. It's a lovely idea, a brunch. So British food can be both rich and hearty or just simple quality food. So the rich and hearty meat stews, roast beef with Yorkshire puddings and gravy is a firm favorite. Yorkshire puddings are made from dough and they are put into a very hot oven and then they puff up. And then you serve those with the beef and the gravy and the roast potatoes, roast carrots. That's a classic British meal. And then on the simple comfort food side, there is bangers and mash. And I mentioned before the meat pies, beans on toast. Bangers and mash is sausages and mashed potatoes. And then an interesting breakfast is called bubble and squeak, where you take any leftovers of meat and vegetables from the night before, you put them in the pan, and then you pour egg over them, whisked egg. So it's almost like a frittata, but you just add everything that you have, including the potatoes, and then you add the egg, and that's a great breakfast, a leftovers breakfast. So simple meals like sausage and potato are a great addition to your weekly menu plan, and they're easy. Last minute is good with just having to cook up some sausages in the pan and bake some potatoes. And then the bubble and squeak is a great way to use up leftovers, not wasting any food, but making it into a delicious meal. Also, to mention, the British afternoon tea can sometimes be seen as a mid afternoon meal and not just a snack, but even an event. And this is like a food ritual that breaks up the day, gives you a moment of relaxation, indulgence. So, something like tea with scones, cream, and jam are distinct British traditions. And then because of afternoon tea, supper would be had later, like 8 p.m., even 9 p.m., because you wouldn't be as hungry earlier than that. And there would often be a lighter meal like some soup with bread, sometimes fruit salad with cream, nothing too heavy. Britain is also well known for its elegant cuisine and fancy restaurants. Chefs like Gordon Ramsay and Jamie Oliver are very well known worldwide. And they're good at teaching people how to cook from home, from scratch. And they're also good at having fancy restaurants with amazing British cuisine. Christmas dinner in England is also a wonderful thing. Often they would have a roast meat, roast lamb, roast beef, sometimes roast turkey with roast potatoes and sometimes Yorkshire puddings. But it would be a very rich meal with gravy and lots of sides. And then the Christmas pudding is one of the things we sing about, figgy pudding or a date and fruit Christmas pudding with brandy. It's often a little light as a fun thing for the meal. And then little coins pushed into it to find while you're eating your Christmas pudding as a little treat or sometimes little charms, little silver charms. I remember as a child getting little horse and rainbow charms in my Christmas pudding. So British food is often hearty, designed to provide comfort and nourishment. Pies, stews, roasts, fish and chips. Those are satisfying and they sustain you, especially in the colder months. Then it's often a communal experience. A family Sunday roast is a common thing. As I've mentioned, the afternoon tea or the pub lunch, this British dining revolves around sharing food and spending time together. So, a typical British lunch, many children at school or adults at work will take a packed lunch. That'll usually be a sandwich, a packet of crisps, a fruit, and a drink. And sandwiches are known as butty or sami in some parts of the UK. Some people like prawn and mayonnaise or tuna mayonnaise, ham and pickle sandwiches. And then a traditional British dinner would be meat and 2 veg with gravy. So those are the juices from the roast meat. So the vegetables may be Brussels sprouts, carrots, potatoes, green beans. There's usually some form of potatoes with the meal. Just for fun, here's some comments by people who were experiencing British cuisine for the first time. This is on a website called vice.com. So, I still don't understand the purpose of gravy. And you have so many pies, but they all just taste the same. You put meat in a lot of pastries, somebody else said. So much cheddar cheese on everything, said one lady. It's normal to have crisps in the morning, said one man. Crisps would be like potato chips. And then chips that go with fish are often soggy and long potato chips. Somebody from India on trying British food said the general lack of spice has always repulsed me. I guess they're not very spicy in their food. Yorkshire puddings are very strange, somebody said. Salad dressings should not be cream, somebody else mentioned. So they have creamy salad dressings. Another well-known British dish is cottage pie or shepherd's pie. Cottage pie would be made with ground beef and shepherd's pie, ground lamb or minced lamb. A savory pie with vegetables and lamb and gravy mixed, and then a layer of mashed potatoes on the top. Then Cornish pasty. I'm sure you've heard of that. A pastry filled with a mixture of meat pieces or shredded beef with potatoes or turnips, peas, chopped carrots, some onions, and then baked. The pastry is baked until golden. So that's from the Cornwall region. Then the Scotch egg. Have you heard of a Scotch egg? A hard-boiled egg which is wrapped in sausage meat, then breaded and deep fried or baked. It's great for picnics. Welsh rarebit is a melted cheesy sauce with mustard in it, which is served over toasted bread. This is a very unusual treat. Then the Cumberland sausage is a coiled sausage seasoned with herb and spices. That comes from Cumbria in the north of England. And the British also have some amazing desserts. Sticky toffee pudding is one of the best. It's like a sponge cake made with dates, and then it's covered in a rich toffee sauce and served with ice cream. And then Eton mess, a simple dessert made from crushed meringue, adding fresh strawberries on top and whipped cream. That's traditionally associated with Eton College. That's a really amazingly delicious one. And the Bakewell tart. That's short crust pastry filled with raspberry jam and then frangipane, which is an almond flavored filling and topped with flaked almonds. If you want to try one of these, I recommend the Eton mess because you can just buy the meringues, break them up, add the strawberries and cream, and there you go. The British are good at simple desserts too, like fresh raspberries with whipped cream. It's another famous 5 dessert. So I hope you enjoyed thinking about British cuisine a little bit. Perhaps you know it well, or perhaps it's new to you. Something I've mentioned on previous occasions are British crunchies. They are more like oat cakes than you would imagine. So it's usually got oats, coconut, and flour, and then some form of syrup and butter. And it's all mixed and then baked. So those are really fun to try as well. So when thinking about British cuisine, it's inspiring to make hearty food from scratch that nourishes your family, and to try things that are going to help you to sit down together, enjoy a long, slow meal, and be well nourished. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.